It's the head of the hour, 5 o'clock. I want to welcome everybody here. I want to welcome my panelists. This is a second time that Seahorse Magazine's been proud to present a discussion on a topic that will always be discussed and will never be solved, but it's still important to the game. Those that attend, please help yourself. We have a stack of Seahorse Magazines up here, one per customer. First one's free. I'm Dobbs Davis. I've been called the U.S. editor, also the technical editor of this magazine. We like to auger into all the ugly details of sailboat racing, one of which is rating rules, a lot is technology. And so we felt like it was a great place, and I thank Peter Craig for giving us the forum here to discuss this topic. So, do we have mics for our panelists? Panelist mics, please? Because we've been able to convene a very nice panel representing some different rating systems. Thank you, Peter. Some users of the systems, i.e. owners, race organizers. We've got, I think, a really nice, nice set of gentlemen here who can help us wend our way through this topic. So starting down on the end to my right, in the white shirt. Do we have a mic? We can pass the mic down to Mr. Dick Neville. Can we? Could you just introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do? Oops, stand by. There we go. Go ahead. Well, thanks. There's the gauntlet for us to try to explore that topic. Next to Dick's left is Steve Benjamin. Benji, can you introduce yourself and tell us about the various hats that you wear? Fair to say that Benji has a foot in every camp. But that's good, because Benji's a very good sailor and I think has great input. Go ahead. Thanks, Benj. All right, very good. Bruce, introduce yourself, please. Excellent. Thanks, Bruce. To Bruce's left is John Brim. John? Excellent. Good spectrum. All right. To John's left is Bjorn Johnson. Bjorn?
Bjorn Johnson. Give me a little bit of my background. Former chief inspector of the Newport Bermuda race. I was chairman for the 2010 race. I'm the safety and technical chairman for the transatlantic race for the New York Yacht Club. For those crazy safety rigs that U.S. Sailing came out with called the USSERs that simplified everything. And now we'll get to my real job. I'm the executive director of the Sailing Yacht Research Foundation, so Benji's one of my bosses. And I'm also the executive director for the Offshore Racing Association, which is the rule owner of the ORR and HPR rules. So we have two totally diverse rules that I try and keep handle on who's doing what.
Thank you, Bjorn. And to Bjorn's left, Rob Whalen. Rob?
I'm just the class manager of the TP52 class and the Maxi 72.
Yeah. Rob's intersection with the rating rules goes. Explain a little on that.
I've been project managing the construction of roughly 45 high-level racing boats from 30 to 80 feet. So I know where you can take the piss out of the rules, so to say. And I know how to behave as well. And how to deal with all these farm gentlemen when it comes to this minor dispute about interpretations and handling of events and rules.
All right. Well, thanks. A fox in the hen house sometimes, right? So, very good. We know we need rating rules because not everybody agrees on racing the same kinds of boats. The Johnstones have done an excellent job of creating platforms for people to sail. The success of the J70s and some of the other classes is self-evident. You know, these events like Key West Race Week, Quantum Key West, you know, would be dead without them, frankly. But having said that, unless you have big regattas like this, even one designs every now and then have to go sailing under handicap. So we need a system. There's different philosophies on how to do it. Bruce, and maybe I'll have Bruce take the first crack at this. Bruce represents an empirical system, which is one based on observations. What are the pros of that system, Bruce? What do you think the advantages are of an observe-based handicap system?
The disadvantage, of course, is that you have to take into account how well or how poorly the boat is being sailed, and many of the local perf areas didn't do that or don't do that. And certainly the other empirical rule, Portsmouth, doesn't, because they take all data. They don't discriminate between the last place boats and the first place.
So tell us about process. I show up with my boat X. It's a new boat. It's not in your database. How do you start?
Well, that is the.
Or let's even make it more relevant. The Johnstones come up with a new product. Introduced to the marketplace. A dealer comes to you and says, "Hey, I want a rating for this." How does that work?
That's the most difficult challenge that you have. The typical thing, what you would normally do, let me take what the PHRF Consortium at Key West would do. They take and put all of the dimensions of the boat, IPJ, sail area, if it has oversized roach, whatever, brochure waterline, brochure weight, that sort of thing, put it all into a spreadsheet. Then you run a computer program that tries to go and sort against the boats that are already in the database that are the closest to that boat.
Okay, so it's an iterative process based on something you already have.
And then what you do, what I do is I also run it through my own little VPP and check that against what the consortium has come up with. And then the individual members of the consortium use their personal experience and may put a little English on the number one way or the other.
All right. English, good word. I was going to say, maybe John, speaking of English, people have said that IRC is kind of an expensive form of perf. Any comments, or maybe Benj, if you want to pick that up, being a, let John go. Got a mic for John?
Nobody really knows how IRC ratings are calculated. Many people have reverse engineered them, but your description sounds a whole lot like what I think happens down there in Leamington, England with Mike Irwin and his team. But nobody really knows.
All right. That segues into another topic, which is measurement-based rules and something where you may know. So, Bjorn, maybe talk a little bit about a counterpoint to that. You have a bunch of measurements for a boat. How can you approach this in a transparent way, not one that's in a box or governed by the Wizard of Leamington?
There's a couple of different philosophies in using what we call VPP rules. Whether they are, and I don't believe that any VPP rule is transparent anyway. There's hundreds or thousands of lines of code that fit in there, and I don't know how transparent you can be. So what happens is you measure the boat, you come up with the science. It was started back in the 70s and 80s for VPP-based handicapping. The rules, there are two, ORCI and ORR. Two different approaches, two sister, the same basic genetic code that started them, but they're very different in their philosophical approaches. ORR is a black box rule. Basically, it's kind of like the guy at IBM when he said, "How does your computer work?" He says, "Just fine." They look at the rule. They actually go out. We're doing a process now with Butch Ulmer because we've been told that the aero tests are not proper for downwind. They're a little bit off for asymmetrical kites downwind. So one of the advantages we have is we can go out and actually do it in the real world. That's one of the problems with a science-based rule, and as you put more real-world science into it, it becomes better and better.
So Bjorn, you say we, who's we?
That's,
how does the process work?
Jim Teeters is actually working with Butch Ulmer on Christopher Dragon. So they're going to do actually some real-world testing. Both ORCI and ORR use the same aero models. And so we'll eventually find out if maybe there was a problem in the original aero model tests in the wind tunnel. We'll see. In the real world.
Benj, on the ORC side, how many people work on that methodology in that organization?
Well, Dobbs, as you know, the ORC system is quite decentralized, and they have several programmers working together, but remotely through central coordination.
Okay, but there's an ITC, right? The technical committee, and there's, yeah. So I guess what I'm getting at is it's a more international organization, has more inputs.
47 countries?
Yeah, but just on the technical part, ITC, a panel of people.
Right, the ITC is how many, 15 members?
Yeah, 10 to 15, something like that. Okay. Go ahead.
One of the things we believe in is professionalism. So we pay our researchers, and so they're under deliverables. That's one of the philosophies of ORR. We believe that people should be paid for their work, and they have a timeline, and they're under the gun to get it done, and they're responsible for their own work product. I believe under ORC's system, what happens is that it's a little bit more of a volunteer basis, Dobbs. You would know better than I am. Some people are paid,
and
some are not.
Yeah.
So a lot of the technical research, and we also have some unpaid volunteers. We have a lot of yacht designers that come through and are on our technical advisory committee. But the actual work is, for the research, we like to pay for that.
Okay, so transparency, how important is that? Amongst the audience, are you comfortable with a rating system where there's a wizard turning screws, or are you comfortable with a science-based system that might be able to generate some results based on modern scientific principles? Any thoughts? Dave Reed? Wait, microphone? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, not so much us, but I mean, in Farad.
Pass it around. We'll start with you.
I mean, what are the customers coming at, and what do they prefer people who are entering the sport, maybe entering back, into big boat sailing now. I mean, for us, it doesn't matter. It's people buying the boats.
We could look at statistics if that's a measure, right? Number of certificates issued in the various systems. So PHRF at this point is, Bruce, around 15,000 plus or minus in the US.
We have what I would say 15,000 or so official certificates. That is certificates issued by a PHRF organization that's a member of U.S. Sailing. Our estimate is there's probably at least another 5,000 local lake clubs and so forth that are sailing empirical handicapped.
Okay, but just to give me a ballpark number, 15?
Well, that would be 20.
20, okay. Bjorn, ORR, go ahead and use your mic, please.
Yeah, around 650.
650.
In the United States,
In the US.
and Mexico, and Canada.
Okay. Benj, or sorry, no, John, do you happen to know IRC stats?
Yeah, IRC has dwindled in the U.S. considerably from 600 plus to 200 plus. But worldwide, I believe there's still probably 6,000, something
About
like
6,000.
that.
Benj, any idea on the latest ORC stats?
I think we're 11,000 total if you include ORC Club and
Yeah, I think it's
ORC.
more like 9,000.
Right.
9,500, something like that. So, Dave, does that help answer your question on if you measure that in customers? So orders of magnitude different depending on where you are. Alan, did you have a... Sorry, I can turn that thing on.
2-2. All right.
There we go.
I hear you talking about what each of the different rules that you work with or you represent or whatever, how they work, and then you ask which one is better for the customer, for the sport, whatever. And I feel like there's a little disconnect, which is each of the rules it's a calculation, it's a system, but it's not. It doesn't operate in a vacuum. Each rule is actually the system, and then the people behind it, the administration of it, the enforcement of it, the marketing of it, the communication of how it works, how understandable it is. And that's the question when you say which one do we like, which one is best for sailing, or that which one should U.S. Sailing promote. You have to look at that and say, what are those factors? How are these promoted? Who are they being marketed to? Who understands them? Who wants to use them? Which is growing, etc. Sorry, I didn't mean to give you like 95 things to talk about, but...
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I think that's a very good question. I should make it clear, I'm not here as a proponent of any system. I'm actually a customer, member of the committee Benj chairs, which is sort of studying all this stuff, at least for our yacht club. And I think Storm Tristle is doing the same thing. But it is true that different people promote themselves in different ways, and some are international, some are secret, some are more precise. But in the end, I think the owners, and for the good of the sport, have the votes. And I think that's very important.
Any comments? Yeah, go ahead. Bill Coates.
No, I was just, the comment I was going to, as someone who's, I think, currently holds 5 different rating certificates for one boat, it's incredibly frustrating that each major regatta seems to have selected a different rating system.
Okay.
That Newport Bermuda, I think, now is only going to be ORR. I heard that
was
rumor the other day.
Announcement the other day, yes.
And there'll be no IRC. As a boat owner who's interested in that race, it completely turns me off to doing it because you spend so much money focusing on whether it's IRC because you want to do the middle sea race or you want to do Fastnet, and then have to turn around to completely change the boat and the sails and maybe even the keel to be better for that. It's just nonsensical in my mind. So as we were talking about yesterday for the big boat series, if you want to go to California, you can't go all the way out there for one regatta. And you're not going to go for a regatta that's IRC, and then another regatta where it's perf, and then another regatta. You know, somebody needs to come up with one at the most, or 2, but for the big premier regattas, there needs to be one rating system, whatever it is. It could be HPR. You tell me it's HPR, I'll change my keel if I know that's the one rating system. Okay. But 4 or 5 or 6 in 1 year is way too much, and that's what I'm dealing with.
I forgot one point I wanted to make, which is this gentleman said that U.S. Sailing should sponsor one. Many national authorities do sponsor one. U.S. Sailing does not. It's quite clear that it's neutral, and it renders the service of issuing certificates and providing information. but our national authority does not. I don't know.
Why? Why? Bjorn?
Oh, no, I don't know the answer.
No, I'm sorry. Benj. Benj is on down.
Okay, well, I happen to agree with Alan that the important thing is the sailors and getting more participation, and the rules here is kind of a sideshow, and that we all need to pull together to get more people sailing and more boats on the water, and that should be the emphasis. As far as U.S. sailing, they have a neutral policy to support all active rules in the United States equally, and to promote PHRF as the entry-level rule of choice. That's the existing board policy. I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
When can we get U.S. Sailing to adopt a national PHRF? The customers are there, and all the local groups are frustrated with trying to do it on their own. Why the hell can't U.S. Sailing, with all the data they have, adopt national PHRF and make the world easy for everybody?
That would have been wonderful had U.S. Sailing jumped into the fray 20 years ago. Unfortunately, many local PHRF groups came to U.S. Sailing 20 plus years ago requesting that very thing. Will you help us? Will you help us promote to the local yacht clubs who are saying, no, we're not really interested in running PHRF races. Those are the casual cruisers. They're not the real racers. We're not interested in that rule. Go away. So as a result, every local PHRF organization grew up on its own and is not beholden to U.S. Sailing, and U.S. Sailing has no control, direct control, over those organizations. One of my jobs over the last year now, but when I was originally PERF chair in the early 2000s, was to try to coordinate with these groups to at least get some uniformity. What we have been relatively successful in is forcing or requesting. We have no forcing mechanism, but we have a request to get all the PERF groups in the entire country to slide their scales one way or the other, since it's really the differential that counts, not the absolute number, slide their scale so that the J35, which is sailed virtually everywhere, rates 72. We finally got that done probably 4 to 5 years ago, and after that happened, a lot of the more disparate outlying ratings began to come into focus because you could now see you really had some outliers for some boats. U.S. Sailing then undertook the task.
I'm sorry, I'm going to just try to shorten this a bit because
20 standardized boats ranging from a J125 at the fast end to a J120 to a J24 at the slow end. We're seeing some progress at condensation of the rule.
Let me ask. You know, I get the pleasure and privilege of being able to see this game played outside the U.S. and there isn't nearly the same fractionation. There is some central leadership exerted by the sailing authority in that country. Benj, is it possible that and it's not U.S. Sailing now, right? There's a kind of another entity or another rebranding for that office that deals with these matters. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Right, so U.S. Sailing's offshore division is now known as U.S. Offshore, and it's a revitalization of the offshore office, which is in progress. The exciting part about it is the universal measurement system is coming in so that all boats will be measured to standard protocols, and at least we'll be measuring the boats the same way all around the world with our international partners, the ORC and the RORC. So the measurements for the boats will be standardized to the universal measurement system, and we have a major technology sponsor, SAP, coming in to help us with that effort.
But can U.S. Offshore exert a position of leadership? I mean, the audience here seems to say, look, and organizers like Dick and others want a leadership role from a central authority such as U.S. Offshore to be able to, if not dictate, then at least cajole, urge, demand act in some active and proactive way to try to distill some of this chaos, or reduce the number of options or something.
Can they? Yes.
Okay.
Will they? I'm not sure.
Is it possible? What would be needed in order to do that?
I will tell you, I have spent probably 500 hours talking to individual PHRF groups all around the country to get the J35s to 72 and adoption of these standard boats.
Okay, so is it hurting cats? Are we just doomed to continue to have this fractionation, or like Dick's asking for as an event organizer, right?
We have Block Island Race Week. No offense to Peter Craig, but now the biggest single full-week regatta in the United States. We have 8, 9, 10 PHRF areas that boats are coming from, and we want to be able to say, U.S. offshore rates your boat with all of their data that they have from all these other rules that they're messing with and getting input from. Your rating nationally is this. And I don't know why it can't be done.
Sorry, another. Gerard, thank you.
First of all, I think I'm Rod Johnstone. I designed most of the J boats. My son Al does it now, but I work for him. But I really was interested in what Bruce is saying about how PHRF is trying to standardize the ratings nationally, because we on our J-Boats website suggest how all our boats should rate against each other. We don't talk about anybody else's boats, because then we'll just get an argument with somebody. But on our own boats, we know pretty much how fast they are and how they should rate against each other if you're going to have a single number rating, which isn't always appropriate. But I can tell you right now, to your concern about Block Island Race Week, that the one particular boat of ours, if it shows up at Block Island Race Week racing PHRF, it would be a surprise if any of them do, because this particular boat, under the PHRF of Western Long Island Sound, which you run Block Island Race Week on from Storm Chrysler Club, rates the J122 exactly the same as the J111, which is absolutely outrageous. And we've suggested that to the PHRF committee of Western Long Island Sound, but they don't listen to us. And so that really, as far as we're concerned, we would think it would be great if there's a national standard rating of our boats against each other, which doesn't exist right now. And I think PHRF and Bruce is to be congratulating for making this effort. Yeah, please spend the 500 hours or whatever it takes to make this happen.
Well, you have to go to the jury? Good luck there. Thanks for joining us, Dick. All right, so Dick Neville, event organizer, wants uniformity leadership. I'm just going to try to close off that topic, but Ben, is it possible, can U.S. offshore, in its political framework, functional framework, is there a pathway to get to what they want? Forget the technical bits and the sliding scales. Can there be some authority exerted from this organization? Or is Bruce it's going to be destined to herd cats?
Yes, I think it's possible. What do you think, Bruce?
I think it's possible only if you get all of the individual perf organizations to agree to be governed by by U.S. Sailing.
There's a start.
And I do not think right now that's possible.
Why?
Because there is a good deal of animosity amongst some of the larger perf organizations towards U.S. Sailing because of the way they feel they've been treated in the past.
The past.
Okay, so if we made it voluntary, would that work? If U.S. Sailing provided a framework for a national voluntary PHRF system?
I think it would work on the East Coast. I think it might work in the Great Lakes. I doubt it will work on the West Coast because the people in San Francisco will claim that their average wind speed of 20 knots or 18 knots or whatever they think their average is different than the average wind speed of 8 knots. And the boats actually, and in truth, do sail against each other relatively different in their breeze.
Okay, so different boats. Now we're getting into another little topic. Benj, the ORC guys have a solution for that. It's a measured system. It's not a single number. Do we need to examine that possibility, that you can have a number that's not going to be good for all courses and all conditions, but might be able to parse it out a little?
Let's have Bjorn tell us about Triple Number Plus.
Sure. At ORA, we have worked with U.S. Sailing to develop a Triple Number Plus, taking the VPPs, probably about 90%. We take a localized fleet. Then there's about a 10% observed performance. The numbers could go up or down. VPPs don't get everything right. So it does help. The VPPs become better. There'll be a mid-range number, the broad-based number, and then there will be a light wind speed and a heavy airspeed. So it's 3 numbers, and the plus part is there'll be what I call an offshore number that PHRF committees could use. And we have had a lot of interest in that. So that's a joint venture between ORA and U.S. Offshore. So we're working on developing that. It would have a national committee of designers and of PHRF regions, and Bruce would be part of it. We've discussed it with them, and it would be voluntary. So we get that section in. The thing about the United States is we're all kind of a country of anarchists, and so we all want to do our own thing, let's face it. I mean, we were revolutionaries a couple hundred years ago, and that probably hasn't changed. It's a cultural thing. So you almost have to give people a reason to want to join. And this is a region that individuals can join U.S. Sailing, pay a minimal fee, $50, I don't know what the fees are going to be, it's a work in progress. But certainly it then helps PHRF regions get a handle on what they're doing, and some regions do need golf handicapping. I mean, they just do that because they're Wednesday night guys. I understand that. But certainly it helps them fine-tune what they need to do. It helps U.S. Sailing gain what they need to do, and that is contact with the customer. As an organizing authority, as a sailmaker, as a boat builder, that's what you want. And provide a service to the sailor that makes it easy for him to understand.
So Bill Coates has his Triple Number Plus certificate for South Florida, and he wants to go to race in Arizona. Is that a different certificate, or is that the same thing?
No, you would, if the organizing authority was using Triple Number Plus, it would be the same certificate.
So this is a uniform product used throughout the U.S.?
Correct, and it would have to be, the local regions would have to want to do this. I mean, this is a voluntary thing.
What do you guys think? Will local regions want to adopt something that's suggested by a central authority? Yes, no? Who says yes? 2. Come on, really? Everybody? Who says no? Another 2. So a lot of people don't say, they don't know. Perf works in a lot of places. Fair enough? All right.
Let me respond to.
Yeah.
Rob, do you want to?
You're right.
Rob, do you want to fill in?
Rob's from Holland, although he doesn't really sell there. They have a system there where there's over 1,000 boats that race in a triple number system like Bjorn's described, and they won't use anything else.
So yes, the triple number system exists in ORC, and it's there. It's available. It works.
6,000.
So, I know every car company invents the wheel again, but they all look the same in the end, and they do the same job.
One thing, if I may ask, on triple number, one of the things when I was first exposed to it is how do you agree? How do you know what the light number is and the medium number and the heavy number? Don't you get people that are going to...
No, the only question is who is in charge of saying whether the light number is in place or the medium. So whereas you can say on paper at 9 knots you go from light to medium, But there is a guy on the committee boat who has to raise a flag and make that decision.
Exactly.
And of course, you know, on the committee boats it's 9 knots, and halfway up the course it's 8, and at the top mark it's 10, and then the guy makes a decision, and that's
right. And,
but it works better than, of course, having one number.
Yeah.
It's more accurate in the end. And
does the audience like this idea, triple number?
after the race, before the race?
No. Before the race, the flag goes up. It tells you we are using the light number for this race. The wind fills, it's tough. They make the decision at the press signal. Or
yeah. Right now, you have a pretty accurate idea what is going to happen the next few hours if you get a decent forecast, and you take that in the decision. But you have to go with this decision of the one guy. But I would say it's better than having one number because you're closer. You're close. Well, maybe it should have been light if it's medium, but it's hardly ever going to be light number racing at 20 knot plus, scoring at 20 knot plus event if it's a 1 hour race.
When I've asked the Dutch guys, I said, don't you guys argue? They say, no, look, it's real simple. If people are on the leeward side of the boat, it's light. If the boat's approaching, it's heavy. Everything else is medium. That's their simple way of looking at it. Rod.
I think a better way of doing it would be, if you're going to have triple numbers, would be the way they do it in Southern California in PHRF, and that is have different numbers for different types of courses rather than different wind strengths. Where some boats
already described a
right.
general number for offshore, right?
And the only and Portsmouth already uses a triple number for there, but I'm not quite sure how they arrive at those numbers. They don't always look right for our boats, but.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, both IRC and PERF have a single point number for all wind strengths. So what you get is every dog has his day, or their horses for courses. And I personally believe that the evolution of the last 10 years, the boats are radically different. Light boats will plane, etc. That's kind of why I'm interested in examining things, a more dynamic rule, whether it's this triple point or an ORR, ORC, or whatever. I think we have to take into account that under different wind strengths and indeed course configurations, things are different for different boats. And unless you're a Wednesday night beer can guy, you don't care. You know, it wasn't my day, and you go have your beer. I think we do have to have a dynamic rule. At least we have to study it.
Audience agree? Yeah. Oh, good. That's great. Some uniformity amongst the revolutionary patriots. Yes, go ahead, Bruce.
My only observation is that we tried the triple number here last year, and when you couple triple number with TOT, now triple number works excellently if you're doing time on distance. If you couple it with TOT, it gets very difficult because there's really very subtle differences, and the 3-second differentials in perf are actually too much. However, in analyzing the data over the last 4 or 5 Key West race weeks, there is a significant difference because of course configuration, because of 4-leg or 5-leg.
Okay.
So this year, we have done a 2-number system, time on time though, to take wind strength somewhat into account, but 4-leg courses or 5-leg courses, and I would say that the results have been very tight. It's worked very well.
Some of this that's great to hear, and there's great that there can be some refinement of the ratings for that. At some point, race managers are going to have to make decisions, right? One of the things about single numbers is it takes the decision out of the hands of the race managers. Time on time, time on distance. What does everybody think? Go ahead.
Generally speaking, I think it's not going to change the way we race the boats. And if we're going to do 3 numbers, why not 5?
3 numbers, why not 5?
Why not 5? So,
well,
whatever that is.
There is another system. It's not used here in the U.S. anymore, unless the ORR guys want to use it. But there is a way to do a matrix, right? And you
absolutely,
you can customize it.
And to also take into account hull design. Great point, because
okay, well, then every
dog has its day, so we can get rid of that as well. But I really like the notion of the
IRC rating system having this black box.
You like the black box.
The decision is being made elsewhere.
Benevolent
It is what it
dictator.
is. Let's go out and race and let you guys do the job well. And then nobody has any problems with it.
There we go. We have a vote for a benevolent dictator. Right. Not everybody agrees. No, it is American because there's some benevolent dictators in PHRF.
Let me take the other side of that argument, which is transparency and public availability of the data, which is one thing we're trying to achieve with the Universal Measurement System, is that the boat's measurement data is available publicly, and it's transparent and it's published. And you can go online and look at any certificate to any boat with the Universal Measurement System. And then you take that one step further to HPR, which is a published formula on an Excel spreadsheet known to everyone, and you can check it for errors, and you always know what your boat is going to rate before you build it, before you even launch it. You can run it through and get its rating.
Everybody think that is good transparency. That's kind of a counterpoint to the benevolent dictator.
Can I build on that, Dobbs?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, one of the things about UMS is we could all have a little different philosophy for how we do the rules, but if we all measure the boats the same way, you get it measured once, and you can go get different certificates if different organizing authorities want to use them. So that makes it a lot easier for the boat owner. And that's one of the great things about HPR. It's a spreadsheet rule. And between ORC and ORR, we can send data back and forth. That's done by the tech guys in the back room. So we can share that data and produce different certificates.
Yeah, that's Mike Irwin called that passport. Each boat has a passport. Your identity is in a document. It has all your measurements, and you simply, wherever you're going to go, you submit that, and whatever the local rating authority wants to use for their system, then the passport is used. But we still have this sort of niggling problem of uniformity. So Bill Coates wants to take his boat, but he wants to, doesn't want to change it for each place he goes. And therefore transparency is important to see that. So how do we feel with that? I mean, go ahead, Ben.
Well, let's throw this over to Rob for like the 72 class. If some of your boats are going to do the Bermuda race, would they then have to optimize now to ORR?
Yeah, it depends how serious you are, but every rating rule, every VPP type forms. There is no, and there will never be, a VPP that doesn't type form. If you don't accept that, then you can go with one boat and keep it the same to every event and keep on believing and be puzzled why in one event you do well and the other one you have no chance. You can also accept it and type form, sell the events in the rule that you are type form for, or you can adapt your boat as much as possible to the type form that the specific event and the specific rule in place demands. Some people really like that even. The great negative is it costs you a lot of money. But some don't mind, some like it, and it gives them an advantage if you understand how this world works. And that's one of the things with the Universal Measurement System. Who is a real serious racer who measures his boat once? You measure every week if it takes you to a better rating. And you will see you measure it 2 times, they don't come up with the same numbers. And you modify your boat, and you measure again, and you measure your sail shrinks every time you're out there. Are you gonna sail with one measurement? You must be joking. The measurer is your biggest friend. It doesn't matter what it costs. And if you don't want to understand that, yes, you can live with 6,000 different variations of PHRF and whatever, and dream but you're dreaming, you're not racing. And you're wasting time and studying all these rules, and you're wasting time. Go sailing, enjoy your boat. But if you're a serious racer, you optimize. And you optimize all the time, you pay for it, and it would help if the system you race to, and it doesn't really matter which one it is
is the same for all the events where you go to, because it saves you a hell of a lot of aggravation, a hell of a lot of money. And if you don't want to accept that and have these kind of discussions and keep on listening to it and waste time with it, fine. But you're not selling. That's my...
Thank you. John, transparency?
You know, there's so much complexity here, I don't think I'm going to give a view on that one.
Okay.
The longer this conversation goes, the narrower into the pyramid we get to a true performance. Right, we're getting into a true handicapping system based on measurements, and PERF was always intended to be on observed performance, and it doesn't require a measurement of the boat as much as it is just on the sails. If our objective is to become Grand Prix, then we're moving in the right direction, narrowing up that pyramid. But if our objective is to get more people out sailing, like 30 years ago when all the little crappy boats would go out and enjoy themselves, we have to rethink what we're trying to accomplish, because the numbers here have gone down, so they certainly reflect less interest in this level of sailing, and we know that that base has shrunk substantially. So we should be having a conversation about how PERF invites people to participate and we get more participation.
Let me try to take that and say that we completely agree with you, and we're trying to make it easy. And having different PHRF regions have different applications and different measurements is one thing we're trying to get away from with the standardization of the universal measurement system, so that the boats are all measured the same way, even from the builder. When the production boat comes, we know what the length is, we know how the spinnaker poles are measured, all that is standardized. And even if the ratings are different by the regions, at least you're measuring them the same way and it's the same data.
Yes. You're following that, Bruce?
Actually, I was going to follow up on how do we get more people sailing. And one of the real incentives that Storm Trysail for Block Island Race Week and Annapolis Yacht Club for the Annapolis to Newport have taken on is a performance cruising class, where we are encouraging the less than full up, flat out racers to come and apply. And we are going to, take into account that they have roller furling,
that's done in a whole
other
bunch of places.
things.
I mean, Transpac has the Aloha class, and I think Chicago Mac Race, right? They have quite a few participants that are in that. They don't have full measured ORR certificates. They have something little, what is it called?
The ORR has different levels of measurement, and they have sister ship data.
Right.
They take the highest, whatever the highest rated boat is, if it's a similar boat, and you will get that measurement. You can put your sail measurement in, and whatever the hull data is, that's what you get. Or you can go to full measurement. So they have different levels for different needs.
So, to get to your point, participation, very important. We don't want the rating systems to be a barrier to entry, right? But we have to fulfill some simple criteria of fairness, right? Some level of accuracy, correct?
But again, PERF is based on observed performance, not measured performance. So two exact same boats with the slightly different sails are going to perform, or their observed performance will be different. You can't compensate for that. You kind of have to take a fairly big swing, and then everybody understands. It's the green boat's day today, it's the red boat's day tomorrow. It kind of happens. But at the end of the day, when they all get to the dock and they have a beer, nobody's dropping the cuffs and going at it. They're all saying, I had a lovely day of sailing.
I know, I've seen some cuffs sometimes. Some gloves after this stuff. Right, well, we're close to wrapping up on time. Do we have any other thoughts from the audience on that topic? Fairness? Accuracy? Bjorn, did you have something to say?
Well, I think every sailor wants his own level of fairness. I think that's what happens. We all want it to be fair, but I want my own little extra level. That's why we look toward, optimizing our boats and moving forward. I will have a little anecdote. We were approached by the Acapulco fleet years ago. It was called the Graveyard of IOR, and they're a wonderful success story. You would go into their skippers meetings with PHRF, they'd go to fisticuffs, they'd talk about their ratings, they'd point fingers. They asked us to come down, and they started with a single number, VPP. They got their boats measured. They actually sanded their boat bottoms and wet sanded them and filled in the gouges. And today they are a very successful VPP ORR fleet down there, very excited about sailing, and they have probably some of the best 50-footers I've seen in North America. So that's a success story of moving them up.
I think they're also in Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah, we're starting to expand in Mexico, and they do basically windward lures, and we did customized courses for them. They have about 5 different customized courses, and they're very excited to be part of a measurement process. But that was their process. That's not for everybody. That was for them.
All right, so we iterate back and forth between wanting to have something that has central leadership that says, this is the right thing to do. You should use this. We encourage you to use this, but then customize solutions for individual areas.
We do a lot of we're asked to do a lot of customized solutions. St. Francis asked us for their Big Boat Series to do a customized solution in all of their premier events. We view ORR as viewed as a mid-level rule. It's for a big basket of very diverse boats. It's not a Grand Prix rule. It can rate Grand Prix boats, and it can also rate a boat that's 50 years old. And no rating rule is going to be fair to every boat on every day. I mean, and it can't rate every boat. So you just have to live with that when you handicap boats.
This is a tough question because when you do customized solutions and kind of work through all the different options, somebody's got to do that. You have a professional organization, somebody's got to get paid to do it. How does this pay for itself? People often say, well, PHRF, it's easy because it's cheap. It's $35 for a certificate. If you have somebody coming in and doing customized solutions, that's not going to be $35.
That's true, and we've had some benefactors that have helped, and we get a portion of rating certificates. And one of the things is that yes, PHRF is cheap, and it's easy, and that's one of the things we have to make all of these rules. Got to make them easy. You have to make them reasonably priced, and we're working on solutions toward that goal.
John, do you have a comment?
I doubt that the attendees from the bar are truly interested in hearing much more of this, but delighted to talk. I think your point is very important. The top of the pyramid is very small. We have to deal with the great mass of the population, and the rest of us can count angels on the head of a pin. Personally, I've expressed my view that we need a dynamic rule of some kind. What it is, we'll figure out. But I think it's extremely important to deal with the 20 or 30,000 certs at the bottom, and one design who constitute the backbone of this regatta.
All right, excellent. Well, listen, one final thought from the audience. Where's our mic? Where's Mike? Yeah, understood.
Would this be the entity here?
Yeah.
Thank you, David. Larry John. Yeah, would this be the entity to also entertain charity giving of boats and whatnot worldwide? I think when we're talking about expanding the sport, it's really access. It comes down to access. And I love Merchant Marine Academy. That's where all the boats go. I kind of don't think that's really spreading it out very well. So would you consider perhaps an international or a charity organization formed within your auspices that would permit U.S. tax deductions, however, to reach out around the world?
We have one. It's called the Sailing Yacht Research Foundation. Ben, do you want to tell us about that?
Well, I think you're right that there are charitable ways that we can promote the sport, and also youth sailing and handicap sailing, all that. I think that's a very good point.
All right. Well, with the rain, with the invasion of the background, I think we're going to wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for coming. And please come forward and pick up your copy of Seahorse and enjoy it. And thanks again for everyone, and thanks for my panelists.